All right, so get ready for a deep dive. That's a little different this time.
Okay.
We are going into the world of the Hangman Outcast,
Okay.
and more specifically, episode 50 from the House of Cheatin' YouTube channel.
All right.
So if you can think of it like a court show,
Okay.
but with more roasts, way more laughs and personalities
hear that,
that
yeah.
you won't soon forget.
Yeah, what's immediately striking about this episode is its format. It plays with this, like, concept of a courtroom.
Yeah.
But it throws all the traditional rules out the window.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see how they
Right.
create this space where these personalities can interact in a way that is both entertaining and oddly revealing.
Yeah, and speaking of the defendant in this comedic court, it's none other than David St. Dennis,
Oh, wow.
also known as David 3000.
Okay.
He's a regular on the show. And the charges against him, well, let's just say that they range from being a mute towards women
Wow.
to domestic violence towards his chair and pillow. Poor David 3000. How will he ever defend himself?
Oh, man. It's in these absurd charges where
Right.
this show's deeper commentary starts to emerge.
Yeah.
On the surface, it's pure entertainment.
Yeah.
But the way that these accusations are presented and debated actually reflect a lot about how we perceive things, like gender dynamics
Oh, I get
and
that.
online interactions.
Okay, so before we get too deep, let's introduce the main players here.
Okay.
First up, we've got Hangman Charlie, the self-proclaimed judge.
Oh.
Of this chaotic court, he's got that Judge Judy energy,
Uh-huh.
but with a whole lot more comedic insults and, honestly, not a great grasp on keeping things orderly.
Hangman Charlie is fascinating because he embodies this contradiction.
Yeah.
You know, he wants to be the authority figure,
Yeah.
but his constant jokes, and let's be honest,
Right.
questionable judgment actually undermine his authority.
Totally.
You know, it really makes you wonder if the show is sort of subtly poking fun at this very concept of power structures.
Absolutely. And then we've got David 3000 himself, the defendant. Okay. He's definitely more on the reserved side, and he's a frequent target of jokes. But I get the sense that he's totally in on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see that too.
There's a mischievous glint in his eye.
It's almost like he's playing this character within a character.
Yeah.
On the surface, he's this hapless defendant.
Yeah.
But there are these moments where he seems to be subtly challenging the court's authority, using humor as a form of resistance. It's really clever.
Yeah.
And it adds like another layer to this whole show's dynamic.
It really does. And of course, you can't forget David 3000's passionate defense attorney,
Right.
Dan XP. This guy is ready to fight tooth and nail for his client,
Oh, wow.
even when the charges are utterly ridiculous.
Dan XP's dedication to defending David 3000,
Yeah.
even against charges like domestic abuse towards a pillow, really speaks to this underlying bond within this group.
I think so too.
They might roast each other mercilessly, but there's this real sense of friendship and loyalty there.
Yeah. Now, in addition to these core players, you have this revolving door of witnesses that are constantly adding to the chaos.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if they're even there to contribute to the case or just ramp up the comedy.
You know, I think that that's deliberate.
I think so too.
This constant influx of new personalities keeps the energy high and unpredictable.
Yeah.
It sort of mirrors the way that we consume online content.
Yeah.
Always moving, always something new to grab our attention.
All right, so are you ready to dive into this trial itself?
Yeah, let's do it.
One of the first things you'll notice is Hangman Charlie trying to act as both judge and witness,
Oh.
which, as you can imagine, doesn't exactly go smoothly.
That blurring of roles is really interesting.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just like a comedic bit.
Right.
It's almost a deliberate rejection of traditional structures.
Yeah.
Like we said, Hangman Charlie wants to be the authority, but by constantly breaking the rules of the court, he's actually undermining that authority
Yeah.
in a way that feels almost postmodern.
Totally. And then you have this whole debate about David 3000 being a mute towards women,
Oh, geez.
which is obviously a ridiculous accusation, but the arguments that they present on both sides
Right.
are so outlandish, it becomes this whole commentary
Yeah.
on communication, especially in the context of online interactions,
Uh-huh.
where things can be easily misinterpreted.
Exactly. It's like they're using this absurd scenario
Right.
to explore the nuances of how we communicate and miscommunicate, especially in online spaces.
Yeah.
You know, it's thought-provoking,
Yeah.
even amidst the laughter.
And speaking of ridiculous accusations,
Okay.
there's a point where they're trying to claim that David 3000 is using steroids.
Uh-huh.
And the evidence that they present is a photo that looks absolutely nothing like him.
Oh, my goodness.
Hey, come on.
The fact that they're using such obviously fake evidence really adds to this show's playfulness.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's a constant reminder that we're not really meant to take any of this seriously. It's all a performance,
Yeah.
carefully crafted for entertainment. And the audience is in on the joke.
And as with any good Hangman Outcast episode, there's always a detour into pop culture.
Oh, yeah.
And this time, it's the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie
Oh.
that sparks a hilarious exchange of insults and opinions. It's like they can't resist a good movie debate even in the middle of a trial.
Those pop culture tangents are more than just filler.
Yeah.
They could create this shared language for the participants in the audience. It reinforces that sense of community. It's like they're saying, hey, we're all nerds here. Let's geek out together.
Okay, so buckle up because this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Out of nowhere, they launched into a discussion about which Pokemon is most compatible for breeding with humans. I'm not kidding.
Oh, my.
They even present evidence to support their claims with Vaporeon apparently being the front runner.
That sudden shift into the bizarre and unexpected is classic Hangman Outcast.
I know, right?
It keeps the audience guessing and creates this feeling of what are they going to come up with next?
Totally.
This willingness to embrace the absurd, to push the boundaries. It's part of what makes the show so refreshing.
And just when you think you've seen it all, they whip out a sexual IQ test.
Oh, no.
I mean, come on. This is peak Hangman Outcast absurdity.
Wow.
Of course, it ends up being another participant, Jordan, who has to take the test.
Right.
Which, as you can imagine, only leads to more chaos and laughter.
The sexual IQ test, while clearly played for laughs, actually touches on some interesting things about how we perceive sexuality.
Yeah.
And knowledge. It's another example of how they use humor to address potentially sensitive topics.
Right.
In a way that's disarming and engaging.
And throughout the episode, you notice these running gags.
Yeah.
Like Charlie's obsession with David 3000's love life and his complete inability to actually run the court in any semblance of order.
Those recurring themes and inside jokes create that feeling of familiarity for the audience.
Yeah.
You're in on the joke part of a shared community. It's no wonder that people keep coming back for more.
So what do you think as we're unpacking this episode?
Okay.
What's grabbing your attention?
Yeah, I think for me, it's this tension between performance and authenticity that keeps me hooked. It's a staged production.
Right.
But there are these moments where these genuine emotions sort of peek through the comedic facade.
Totally.
It makes you wonder how much is scripted.
Yeah.
And how much is just these personalities being themselves.
Yeah.
And it's that mystery that keeps you engaged.
I totally get that. It's like trying to figure out where the act ends and real life begins.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a show that invites you to think, to analyze, to decode all these layers of meaning.
Right.
It's not just entertainment, it's an experience.
Well said. All right. So we've laid the groundwork. We've met the players.
Okay.
We've gotten a taste of the chaos. But there's so much more to unpack. Are you ready to dive deeper into the heart of this trial?
Absolutely. Let's get into the real meat of this episode.
Okay.
There are some moments that I think will really surprise our listener. One moment that really stands out for me is when Hangman Charlie, the self-proclaimed judge, accidentally perjures himself on the stand.
Yeah.
It's almost too perfect.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
The authority figure breaking the rules he's supposed to be upholding.
Right. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion.
Uh-huh.
You knew it was going to be disastrous, but you couldn't look away.
Exactly.
Do you think he did that on purpose? Like, was it a planned bit or did it genuinely slip out?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the brilliance of it.
Right.
Whether intentional or not, it creates this incredible moment of like comedic subversion.
Yeah.
It plays with the idea of truth and performance in a way that's both funny and thought-provoking.
Totally. And then there's this recurring accusation that David 3000 is a domestic abuser. Right.
But the target of his supposed abuse, his chair and pillow.
Right.
I mean, how do you even begin to unpack that?
It's so absurd.
I know.
But I actually think it's a clever way of satirizing how we perceive and discuss these like serious issues.
Right.
By taking something like domestic abuse and applying it to inanimate objects.
Right.
They're highlighting the absurdity of taking things at face value.
Yeah.
It's like they're encouraging us to question everything.
Totally.
To look beyond the surface.
It's like they're saying, don't just accept what you hear, think critically about the information you're getting.
Exactly. And it's all done through humor, which makes it all the more palatable.
Right.
It's a sneaky way of getting people to engage with complex ideas without even realizing it.
I agree. Okay, so we've talked about the accusations, the personalities, the running gags, but what about the overall verdict? Does David 3000 actually get found guilty?
That's where the show gets really interesting.
Okay.
The verdict is deliberately ambiguous.
Oh, really? They leave it up in the air, leaving the audience to speculate and debate.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like they're inviting us to become part of the narrative, draw our own conclusions. It's not just passively consuming content.
Right.
It's actively engaging with it.
Exactly. It creates this sense of community, of shared experience. Everyone watching is trying to figure out what the verdict really means.
Yeah.
And that leads to discussions and interpretations that extend far beyond the episode itself.
It's funny, as we've been diving into this episode, I've been struck by how much it mirrors real-world court cases.
Totally.
The way evidence is presented, the arguments they make, the personalities clashing, it's all there, just magnified and distorted through this comedic lens.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
It's like they've taken the structure of a courtroom drama and injected it with this wild, unpredictable energy.
Right.
And in doing so, they're actually commenting on the legal system itself.
Oh, interesting.
Highlighting its flaws and inconsistencies.
It makes you think about how much of what we see in real-life courtrooms is also performance.
Yeah.
How much is about truth and justice.
Right.
And how much is about playing the game, putting on a show.
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
And it's one that the Hangman Outcast forces us to confront.
Yeah.
Even if it's through laughter and absurdity.
But amidst all the chaos and commentary, there's also this undeniable sense of camaraderie. These guys might roast each other relentlessly, but you can tell that they genuinely enjoy each other's company.
Absolutely. That underlying friendship is what allows them to push boundaries and explore these potentially sensitive topics.
Yeah.
It's like they've created this safe space where they can be outrageous and controversial, but it's always grounded in this foundation of mutual respect and affection.
It's like watching a group of friends having a hilarious argument.
Yeah.
They're going to disagree. They might even get heated, but at the end of the day, they're still friends.
Exactly. And that dynamic is incredibly compelling to watch.
Yeah.
It's relatable, it's authentic, and it makes the humor that much more enjoyable.
And let's not forget the audience, the viewers who are tuning in and engaging with this whole crazy world. They're not just passive observers. They're part of the experience. Their comments, their reactions, their interpretations, it all feeds back into the show, making it this dynamic, evolving thing.
That's such a crucial point.
Yeah.
The Hangman Outcast is a perfect example of how online communities can shape and influence content.
Yeah.
It's this interactive experience where the lines between creator and audience are blurred.
Right.
And that's part of what makes it so unique and engaging.
So as we start to wrap up this deep dive into the Hangman Outcast, what stands out to you as the most intriguing aspect of this episode?
Oh, I think for me, it's the way they manage to balance all those things. You know? They can be absurdly funny one minute and surprisingly insightful the next.
Yeah.
It's a show that keeps you guessing, keeps you laughing.
Right.
And ultimately makes you think about the world in a different way.
I couldn't agree more so for our listener. If you're looking for something that's both hilarious and thought-provoking, something that challenges your assumptions and makes you question everything, then The Hangman Outcast is definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely.
You can find episode 50 and many others on the House of Chayton YouTube channel.
And as you watch, I encourage you to go beyond the surface humor.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the dynamics between the personalities, the way they use language to both reinforce and subvert power structures.
Right.
And those moments where genuine emotion breaks through that comedic facade.
It's a show that rewards close attention and sparks conversation. You might find yourself rewatching certain segments, picking up on new details and layers of meaning each time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's designed for an audience that appreciates intelligent humor.
Right.
And enjoys analyzing the subtext.
Right.
It's not passive entertainment, it's active engagement.
And to leave you with a final thought, remember that question we posed earlier?
Oh, yeah.
How much of what you see in the Hangman Outcast is real and how much is performance?
Right.
Keep that in mind as you watch and see if you can come to your own conclusions.
The beauty of this show is that there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's all about interpretation and personal perspective.
Yeah, it's like they're holding up this mirror to our digital age, showing us how we construct and perform our identities online.
Yeah.
It's fascinating and a little unsettling at the same time.
Precisely. And that's what makes the Hangman Outcast so compelling. It's not just a comedy show.
Right.
It's social commentary disguised as entertainment.
Totally.
You know, it makes you laugh, but it makes you think about the world around you in a whole new way.
So for our listener, if you're looking for a show that's both entertaining and thought-provoking, the Hangman Outcast is definitely worth checking out. You can find episode 50 and many others on the House of Jayden YouTube channel.
And as you watch, I encourage you to go beyond that surface humor.
Right.
Pay attention to the dynamics between the personalities.
Yeah.
The way they use language to both reinforce and subvert those power structures.
Right.
And those moments where genuine emotion breaks through that comedic facade.
Yeah. It's a show that rewards close attention and sparks conversation.
Right.
You might find yourself rewatching certain segments, picking up on new details and layers of meaning each time.
Exactly. It's designed for an audience that appreciates that intelligent humor and enjoys analyzing the subtext.
Right.
It's not passive entertainment.
Yeah.
It's active engagement.
And to leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
Remember that question we posed earlier?
Yeah.
How much of what we see in the Hangman Outcast is real? And how much is performance?
Right.
Keep that in mind as you watch and see if you can come to your own conclusions.
The beauty of this show is that there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
It's all about interpretation and personal perspective.
So dive in, embrace the chaos, and see what insights you can glean from this unique brand of comedic commentary. I think you'll be surprised by how much there is to discover.